Testing, testing.
Oh, we did a test. Yeah, we're good. Staff, dedicate, I asked staff to come in and do a test, and we can talk about this this evening. So we'll be able to adjust on the fly.
Excellent. All right. Okay. I think we have everyone here. CNET is ready, and if staff is ready, I'll go ahead and call to order the Board of Supervisors regular meeting for Tuesday, September 3rd. We could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the manager for announcements and roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to members of the board, the public, and staff for joining us this evening for the September 3rd regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. This meeting has been properly advertised in accordance with the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act as a hybrid meeting with the option to attend virtually and here in person in the main meeting room. If you are in attendance virtually, using the WebEx platform and wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, please say your name, municipality of residence, and the item you wish to speak on when the chairwoman calls on you. If you are attending in person with us in the main meeting room and wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, please address the board at the podium and state your name, municipality of residence, and the topic you wish to speak on. Prior to commencing the meeting, I have a few short procedural items to cover. First, members of the public attending using the WebEx platform are asked to remain muted during the during the meeting to prevent any ambient noise from disrupting the meeting. If a member of the public is acknowledged by the chair and they may unmute their microphone for their question or comment. Secondly, board members are asked to indicate their name when motioning or seconding a motion so that the minutes may accurately reflect the action taken. And finally, a roll call of the Board of Supervisors will now be taken to ensure that all members can hear and interact using the WebEx meeting platform. Please indicate that you are here when your name is called. Ms. Strickland?
Here.
Ms. Stevens? Here. Mr. Thompson?
I'm here.
Mr. Patterson?
Here.
Mr. Heller?
Here.
Thank you. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And I'll also announce at this time that we had an executive session this evening, September 3rd, on legal matters. And we will move on to public input, and this is an opportunity for anyone who has public input on any items not on this evening's agenda, and we'll start in the room. If you have public input, you could make your way up to the podium and just give us your name and your township of residence.
Does this work?
Yes.
I'm Wes Lieb, 115 North Butts, Ferguson Township. I don't know if this is going to mean anything to anybody, but I accidentally ran an experiment with my brush that I put out for the collection. I had cut it up into 10 8-inch pieces and was there when the vac truck came. And the vac truck had come from down the street up to me, and there was a branch sucked across the opening. So I walked over to see if I could take it off for the driver so I wouldn't have to get out. Well, he was in a loquacious mood that day, and he got out, and we were talking. And so as things moved along, he vacked up all my brush, which had, anything there that my loppers would cut. It just went up beautifully. Nothing got stuck. Worked out really nicely. So 8 to 10 inches. Reasonable diameter, goes right up the hose. So I was really pleased with that. So I've got everything clipped up now, so I'll be watching again. I noticed today that at 913 College Avenue, which is the old Minute Mart, in front of me, there's still a liquor license application, one of those orange signs on the window. I never said anything. It went up in October of last year. And I never bothered to say anything, but the fact is you can't have a liquor license there because it's well inside the 2,500-foot ordinance. 2,500 feet between one liquor license outlet and another. So I don't know why it's even there. There's a housing, for anybody who's interested, there's a housing meeting, I guess, Alternative Housing Coalition. They're going to have a pretty strong group. 3 of the major state college housing nonprofits will be there. It's down at Webster's, September 8th, which is a Sunday, from 3 to 5. It looks like something that might be interesting to attend. I'm planning on going. And the last thing, it's a question. What's happened to 1004 LLC? I mean, it's just been a long time, and I don't see anything happening. Does anybody know anything?
The land development plan we're referring to?
I can't hear you.
Did you see something did you see that in the planning report?
Well, I thought it was supposed to go to the planning commission, and I haven't seen it on any of their agendas.
Okay, well, we can talk about it when it comes up, if you have a question then, because it'll be on the, if it's 1004, 1006.
I can't hear you.
I don't know if we can provide an update on.
It's in process. We can,
Yeah.
staff, we can update him.
So nobody knows what's going on?
No, it's under review,
Yeah.
and it's being the process is being facilitated, and we're in communications with the developer.
I am going deaf, so I apologize. Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, other public comment for items not on the agenda? Yep, if you could come up to the podium and just provide your name and township of residence.
I have a handout. I have each one, so. Ensure that this statement.
We can do that.
Thank you. No, you're good.
Good evening. My name is Laura Giannini. I reside in Ferguson Township. There are many items that I could speak on tonight, not the least of which is my concern over staff attrition. But I'll put a pin in that and move on. As you probably remember, at the COG last week, I spoke on the Rock Spring Water Company. Today, I have left with you all a page out of the, I believe it would have been the 2023 annual report of Rock Spring Water Company, which lists all of these shareholders. Shareholders are individuals that make money off of the system. The system aforementioned as in need of full replacement. So the individuals that you see there are highly motivated to not see proper running of that system by the State College Borough Water Authority. Now, as you all know, the State College Borough Water Authority has recently completed a processing plant that's actually in line of sight to many of the Rock Spring Water Company customers, and is fully able to serve those customers water. But I just wanted to speak tonight to 2 points about issue suppression. One, unlike where Supervisor Strickland and Supervisor Heller live in Ward 1, where it's densely populated, in the West End, where I live, it's not densely populated. We have several large landowners that are opinion leaders, that are strongly motivated to not have a transition, right? So some of these landowners you see on this list, right? So also you'll hear a dialogue, which was first introduced to me when I was first elected by somebody that I then considered a mentor. I no longer do, given the water under the bridge that has passed. But at that time, that individual assured me that the West End did not want the much-needed fire company. They did not want that fire station. And, you know, that was perplexing because with a background in ag and extension ed, like I have, I really remember this study that was done of farm areas. Why do farmers not smoke but do chew, unlike most of the rest of the world? Why? Because they're afraid of fire. Fire is very scary for farmers and folks that live on the perimeter of where people and the wildlands are. That's a very hot spot for fire. So that did not make sense to me. Now it makes a lot of sense, right? Because should we go on to the State College Borough Water Authority system, what would happen to these folks and the individuals that no longer can get water from the unmetered connections that DEP notes in their 2024 court action? What would happen to the farmers that make money off of that system through their shares? Right? They would no longer make that money. So what I just wanted to come and help you understand is that there is the issue suppression, and you now have an understanding of why you might hear a dialogue coming from certain portions of the West End that says, no, 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 we don't need a fire station. And then I'm going to take one quick jump over to COG, if you'll indulge me with my more than 5 minutes. If you look at the fire service, right, served through the COG, you can refer to the document I handed out. This is what's called the Articles of Agreement. This document, this legal document, guides the township or municipality's relationship with the COG. So all things about that multiple municipal relationship should be found in that document. So if you look at that document, you can see that it very clearly, and for the sake of time, I won't pick out certain quotes that I could pick out of how this document covers capital expenses as it relates to apparatus and equipment, not capital expenses as it relates to facilities. So if you were to take a look at this document and analyze it legally and look at the structure and the segments of the document and whatnot, vehicles and equipment, facilities, two separate things, you would note that under facilities, on page 5 of 7 on my document, it says this agreement does not include the acquisition and or development of facilities for the fire service program, which shall be addressed in a separate agreement. Now, I have served as an elected official for 7 3/4 years, something to that effect. I spent a fair amount of time on the Public Safety Committee and actually served as the chair of the Public Safety Committee. I never saw that other agreement. I never saw it. Now, I did ask many, many questions during budget time about why we were investing in the Patton Township station, in the College Township station, in the Borough station, not Bollesburg, because, you know, they have their own fire company and they don't provide fire services at all through COG, so they don't have any stake in this game at all. So I asked many times, you know, given that we bought the COG building outright, I guess, or did whatever we did with that so we'd have unified ownership, why aren't we doing that with the fire stations, right? Why are we investing all this money into facilities of other municipalities? Why? Because they serve us. Well, yes, indeed they do, but they're not covered by this agreement. So where's the agreement that covers them? The reason why you need that agreement is because, as I've heard, I can't even watch, honest to God, But as I've heard, we're restudying again if we need a fire station. I don't even know if that's right or how that might have actually happened. But like in every study since 1999, what you look in here is like the beginning of the fire program at COG at all. Since then, we've needed a fire station. Like, now your chair, sorry to extend my time by saying that in the past has really advocated for us to just contribute to the Port Matilda station. I was not really thinking that that was a full solution. And every other study says that that's not a full solution. And in the West End, we have the slowest response time, and that's not Alpha's fault. That's not Alpha's fault. That's not Alpha's fault. So we have the slowest response time in the region, and I know it's for the rural, but we pay the same tax rate. We're covered by the same agreement, okay? So please look into that other agreement. Please get those questions answered that I asked nicely for 5, 6, 7 years and then got tired of asking so nicely. So please, could you get some answers that represent the interest of fire protection, not profits, not keeping our taxes low at the expense of people's safety? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there other public input for items not on this evening's agenda? Looking in the room, not seeing anything and not seeing anything online. All right, thank you. We'll move to approval of minutes, and we have one set of minutes from the August 20th regular meeting. Were there any corrections or changes to those? If not, would someone like to make a motion to approve?
This is Amari, so moved.
This is Matt, second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, thank you. Okay, we'll move to the authorities, boards, and commissions reports. This evening, we have the University Area Joint Authority report presented by Mr. Wes Glebe. I know your report was attached, but if there's anything you'd like to highlight, or Mr. Kunkel, seeing as you're both here. Yeah, if there is anything you'd like to highlight, please feel free to do so.
Well, I'm still enjoying my time on the UAJA board. It's a good authority, and every time I learn a lot. Today I was on an hour-and-a-half Zoom with a company out in Kansas just because they have a new product that may be very strategic for capturing PFAS. And it was just, that's the kind of thing for me that it is. It's exploration. So the status for August, and you all have this, so I'm just going to zip through it. The ozone disinfection has been, for me, disappointing because everything's in place, but it hasn't quite worked. And I think at the last meeting, they said that it was about to work. So everything pretty much was straightened out. And fortunately, it's all on the contractor's dime, so. The anaerobic digester and sludge dryer, the building that held the composting is almost completely torn out, and I think that the sludge drying building is projected to be complete by July 2025, and the digesters are operational hopefully by December 2025. So that's pretty quick for a $69–70 million project, so happy about that. So with the digester, I believe a contract's already signed with Tyrone to take their sludge. Contract specifies the moisture level that the stuff has to come in at. And there's also the intent to sign up Bellefonte. So putting the digester in reduces the volume of compost, but doesn't address the PFAS issue. If there's PFAS that come in the sludge, they won't change. They'll still be there. And so I asked the engineers, and they said, well, they're going to test shortly to see. Now, that can be random. You can have a high and a low, and it can vary. So the third step in dealing with this is pyrolysis, which is putting the, I'm not an expert on this, but as I understand it, it's putting that digested compost into a low oxygen environment and heating it to 14 to 1500 degrees. That will destroy the PFAS. I think this is a big deal, this sludge stuff. Meeks Lane, Act 537. This project will likely be split into two phases. It's an out-of-date project, and it'll have to be reevaluated. The rate dispute with the State College Borough, now that only was just coming into effect when I came on the board and you were leaving. And it's very disturbing to me, just as a citizen and also as a board member, that the borough chose not to follow the law. There were specific protocols when a customer, which they are a customer, had a rate dispute, which that's what this is about. It's a rate dispute. And instead of going through the appropriate protocols, which they knew about, they chose to hold money back. And so right now, they owe the UAJ a $4.1 or so million, which has instituted the necessity to increase the rate for the other ratepayers like me and like you and whoever else is in the system from 104 to 113. Hopefully, they're trying to mediate it now, and that would probably be preferable, but we'll have to wait and see. The put-in-town road interceptor, Act 537 plans, special study. What's required now is that they figure out what they're going to do about going through, around, whatever, Millbrook Marsh. So that's still in progress, trying to figure out how they're going to handle that. The solar arrays, I don't know when they went in, but they went in as a lease, and now the first group of solar arrays is eligible for purchase. And purchasing the array will result in a savings of $5 million over 20 years. And, I mean, I'm sure you're all aware, but a sewer authority uses a lot of electricity. The pumps are just hogs when it comes to power. So I can't see where the solar array was ever anything but a great idea. So I don't know how many other sewer authorities have their own solar arrays, but it's pretty cool. I'll let you read the overall financial impact. That's all I'm going to say. Any questions?
Questions?
Oh, ask me a question.
Since you want a question, are the sheep still mowing the grass at the solar array, or?
I believe they are
Okay.
doing stellar work. I'll have to tell Corey we should get some microphones out there and put it online so people can hear the biting and the munching.
Put web cameras on. Everyone and their children will be watching live sheep.
Yeah,
like
it's
a
kind of
video.
neat, isn't it? Farmer's happy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks very much. Okay, under special reports and acknowledgements, under our diversity, equity, and inclusionary activities and acknowledgements, this month is Suicide Prevention Month. Yesterday, we celebrated Labor Day, and Hispanic Heritage Month will run from September 15th through October 15th. And we'll move to COG and Regional Committee reports. It looks like Park and Recreation Governance Committee was canceled, so we'll go to Facilities Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Try to make this brief. There were two main items to the agenda this morning. One was the Patton Fire Station roof. There's been a study on what to do there for the HVAC system there, actually. And an interesting kind of need has pushed it to the forefront, and that is a leaky roof. It's been leaky over the past several years, and there's now like if we want to keep replacing the kitchen ceiling, we can keep as is, or we can go ahead and make a move. So we should expect to see kind of a higher budgetary amount in finance this year, in the amount of triple what the original ask was going to be during CIP. They kind of broke it up over some years, but I think it's going to be triple. Number one, to just rip the Band-Aid off, get the units off the roof, put them to the floor, and then and replace that roof, and so that we don't have any more water damage to the inner facility. That was number one. Number two was the solar power purchase agreement, which there's been some chatter over the last week or so about it. I'll just go over a couple of facts as I've come to understand thus far. So number one, and the issue being that there's some additional dollars spent within that solar power purchase agreement working group, sorry, not spent. Other dollars, there's another bill that came in from the attorneys for that effort. So in February of 2024, the budget associated with these attorney fees was remaining budget was $44,000. There was some additional legal work that had been kind of, that attorney had said, hey, it's going to be more than $44,000 worth. The group asked, well, how much? And that attorney did not know. So somewhere in that time period, the attorney just did the work, and it was, I guess there was a conversation, so I guess this is a fact I don't know what was in that conversation where attorney went ahead and did the work, and someone said, fine, do what you're going to do, have fun with that. That's fact. I'm paraphrasing the conversation, at which point in May, the working group received or the school board received a bill for $127,758. That was then through May of 2024. And as of right now, they're anticipating through September to be another $30,000 in invoicing for a total of $157,000, $157,758. And there's only right now in the budget $44,000 to cover that. So there's $113,000 that this attorney will have in outstanding bills to the school board, of which Ferguson Township will be a very small portion of that. But nonetheless, we will be a portion of that. There will be an ask. And so there's going to be three options: to pay all of it, to pay none of it, or to pay some of it. So I will just say that I have a lot more questions. As I said, I don't know what that conversation was, but I have a lot more questions on that conversation insofar as how that agreement came about from an attorney and a unauthorized person to allow work to commence. I think anybody can do what they want for free, but I think the moment they're doing something and then there's a bill attached, we probably need some more discussions there. But that's my update. I'll pause for questions.
Thank you. All right, questions? I'm just assuming there are some, that's why I'm waiting.
Yeah, at this point, I'm just waiting to hear more on the specifics as to how this happened. I mean, it's a bill, okay, there are 3 different ways of dealing with it, and multiple perturbations of those 3, I'm sure, when it, rubber hits the road. So at this point, no further questions, just waiting.
I'm just waiting also.
So I think the contracts were supposed to be done by today, from what we heard at the meeting last week. So probably soon is what
We have
I'm
an email,
guessing.
actually, I think,
Oh,
with the
okay.
contract. With an email link to the contract? No, that's not it.
For
Oh,
a
draft
okay.
contract.
Okay, and so,
That's what all this work is kind of reworking the contract based on some technical things that came up.
yeah. Okay, so that was all covered at your facilities meeting today. It was covered as well at the solar power, the working group last
Yeah.
Wednesday, and that was also reported, that meeting, so.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would listen to both. I heard that my questioning was a lot more detailed than the questioning that happened at the working group.
So, good, okay, so we can listen to both of those. And was there any discussion about presentations to the municipalities on this?
Yes,
Okay.
so Pam will be making the rounds, and some of the questioning I asked of her, I think she's gonna start incorporating that in her talk track so that it's not as, so that it's clear. And those facts are in there, so she's gonna go digging on specific conversations, specific dates, and that'll help everybody make a better decision and to inform their decisions.
Okay, and did she indicate when that might happen, that she'd be coming out to the municipalities?
She'll be at the borough on the 9th, I think it is, and College Township, but she'll be at ours the 17th, I believe.
Okay. She was considering that, okay.
If I may, then part of the talking points, or at least where I would be interested in, is hearing specifically in the contract how we approve costs. Who has to sign? And were both parties in agreement prior to, which they would have to have been at some point on a contract. So I'd be curious to understand the process for approval and then have a conversation about that. Gonna spell that.
Yeah, and I don't know if I used the word at risk, but this was at risk work, which is why we have the option to pay none or some. So,
Right, so it wasn't presented to us, but I think that's why I'm curious about when we'll get a presentation on this, so we can, have some folks directly here. So is there any question or comment?
I think that as of now, why Pam might have a tentative schedule as to when she's going to provide presentations to the municipalities. Nothing's been communicated to me at this
Okay,
time. And I'll just provide a note of clarification. The contract, is with the school district. And so, the obligation for payment is currently with the school district, and anything that the participating municipalities would like to give consideration to will really come as part of a later conversation. But there is certainly, I would imagine it would be appropriate to anticipate that they would request the member municipalities to provide an allocation. But that is not something for consideration right now. And part of the questions that I raised at the SPPA working group last Wednesday is really that we lean into the process and discussion to just evaluate, have the attorney evaluate the invoices that have been submitted to determine what, if any, expenses may be removed. So I think it's still early in the conversations. We would welcome a presentation from Pam. If it's the 17th, that's great. My understanding from the update, as discussed in the SPPA working group and then communications from Pam, is that the contracts aren't ready. And so my recommendation is that that presentation come when we have factual information to work with.
That's what I'm thinking as well, because we'd like her here once we have those contracts to have some time to ask those questions along with the billing questions. So, so we'll see. We'll work with her on timing for that. So, but thanks very much. If there's no other questions on that one. And then I know Climate Committee didn't meet, but I did just want to make a note based on the COG General Forum meeting that we had last week with the community solar letter and that agenda item. We had 2 motions in that item, and the first was for COG to send a letter supporting the community solar initiative. The second motion was that the General Forum ask or encourage, and someone can fill in the right word if you recall, it was encourage the municipalities to send that letter. And I just wanted to note the process and maybe ask, because these things typically come out of the Climate Committee. I haven't really seen this kind of letter of support on a particular bill come out of another one. So it seems, but maybe it might be relevant to some others. But to me, what would have been an efficient process there would have been the Climate Committee discussing that, knowing their support of it, moving that through to COG for COG to send that letter of support, but then ask Executive Committee to put that in the matters of record to encourage the municipalities to send that letter as well, instead of taking a motion to do that. It caused some confusion. We talked about it for a while, and I think it would have just maybe made the process, that was my thought, if that would have made the process a little more efficient. And I didn't really see the need. Obviously, if the COG is passing the resolution to support this, there is encouragement already implied. So I think, having the letter that was already written in the matters of record could have saved some confusion there. So a note to the Climate Committee on that, but that's just my, my thought. So if anybody else had an alternate feeling on that.
No. I'm all for that, right, and being on the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee. I'll take this back.
Appreciate that. And then I did want to give you time to talk about Finance Committee and the upcoming budget hearings.
Okay, so as folks just heard, there are 3 public budget hearings coming up at COG over the next 2 weeks. One is on September 10th, next September 12th, and the final one on September 17th. They'll be going through the detailed budget at that time, so I encourage folks to come out for it, offer perspectives, thoughts, etc. And if you have any, please, in advance, please feel free to go ahead and send me a message through the township website. I'd love to get your perspectives in advance of those meetings. So with that being said, I also want to encourage other supervisors, once the budget is available, made available to me, I will make sure that everybody else has a copy of it, so that I, again, will solicit your feedback and ask that you make comments in a digital copy that then you can forward to me in advance of the meeting starting on September 10th. So I'm trying to go ahead, do some crowdsourcing of ideas, concerns, etc., because I think we all know that the COG budget is a concern. I'll just use that term for a lot of reasons. So also, the first September 10th meeting, there'll be 2 parts to it. One will be the COG administration. The second will be the Parks and Rec. On September 12th, it will be fire and emergency, followed by planning, PMO, and refuse. And then on the 17th, it will be the code administration and the library. So all of this can be found on the COG website too. So please use that as a reference. And again, I hope to see folks come out. And again, board members, please offer your perspectives in advance so that I can have a deeper conversation. That was it. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions on that? All right, well, thanks very much
Thank you.
for bringing that up. Appreciate that. All right, so let's move to staff reports, and up first we had the manager's report. Anything to highlight from that?
Provided with the agenda is a copy of the report.
All right, questions for the manager? Not seeing anything. Okay, any questions on the planning and zoning department report? Yes, go ahead.
This is a new system, right, with the report?
Yes, we've updated the way that we present the planning and zoning department report, correct?
And this is better than last meeting, which is good. I have a couple questions. So like zoning complaints received were 3, and then zoning complaints closed 1. The other 2, any idea what happened to them?
They're still in process. So this is a high level.
Right, which would mean the zoning complaint would be open, which is 0. Sorry, I probably should have said that.
Oh, I see what you're
So
saying.
the 2 aren't in the numbers.
Got it, yeah.
So kind of just curious what.
Yeah, that's a good
where
question.
they
I
are.
will look into that and provide an update.
And it sounds like if they're in process, somebody just needs to click the button and say, open now, versus just work it and not update the data.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just say, being in a field where clients,
Right.
data is always the problem, folks just have to get used to clicking the button, putting it in process, and then everything flows. But Cool, totally get
That's
it.
a good point, yeah, thank you.
And so that probably flows into a few more questions that I have about the numbers. And so my ask would be that the team just kind of do their due diligence, look at the numbers, make sure they all add up, and that it's kind of, there's no number getting lost. A couple of things I saw that I think we approved last meeting, and they're not on here. So ignore the numbers. The last thing I had was, I saw that the planning and zoning meeting was canceled on August 26th due to a quorum. At least that's
Planning commission.
Sorry, planning commission. Sorry.
Right, that is correct.
So how does that impact the schedule? Because I saw, it's based on our really cool, they're going to review on this
Yeah.
date, approve on this date. Well, one of the dates is off now. Or how bad is it?
That's a great question. So I would, I'll take this time to also emphasize that we have resident volunteers that serve on the planning commission. And so we had an individual that communicated, I think maybe the Friday prior, and said they would be unavailable. They had a conflict. And then the day of the meeting, we had 2 individuals also communicate to our community planner that they had a conflict and one wasn't feeling well. And so unfortunately, right, these things are out of our control. And so the meeting was canceled. There was one item, of course, that was on schedule for a review with action coming from the planning commission, which was a text amendment, and that will get bumped into the next planning commission meeting. And I actually have a meeting with that applicant, and so I wouldn't say that it's bad. It's just it's one of those situations outside of our control when we don't have a quorum as a result of individual circumstances within each of the individual planning commission members, which is, I would say, this is the first time that we've canceled as a result of a lack of quorum. So I think that in terms of evaluating our history here, overall, I'm not concerned that these things happened, and this is the first time that it's happened in several years. But I understand that the impact, of course, to an individual who's looking forward to have action taken from the Planning Commission, perhaps they have a different opinion. Maybe they would consider it not so favorable. But I have a discussion with that individual that was impacted, and it's my understanding that the Planning Commission staff is also reaching out or has reached out to the applicant just to help put in perspective that these are volunteers within our community serving on the Planning Commission, and that unfortunately we realize and apologize that this individual applicant was impacted.
Okay, so there's no advancing that particular one that was missed in the meeting on the 26th. There's no way to kind of do the 2 things at once in the next meeting?
So the step 1, which is a discussion at a workshop, had already happened, and this past meeting that was canceled as a result of not having a quorum just
that
would
was
have
step
been
2.
the discussion for an action, for a recommendation to the planning or to the board. In this particular case, the text amendment will require quite a process, regardless of of all the options that are considered on the table right now for a text amendment.
Very much appreciated. Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. If there's no other comment, this is a roll call vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a roll call vote for Resolution 2024-21. Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Ms. Strickland?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. Again, thanks everyone for their work on that. Okay, we now have a public hearing on an ordinance of the Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, repealing Chapter 26, Water, Part 1, Stormwater, and adopting a new Chapter 26, Water, Part 1, Stormwater of the Code of Ordinances. And we'll go to Township Engineer Ron Seibert.
Good evening. We're back. Well, I'm back. So recall we were here last month, had a nice presentation. Adam was here as well. Walked through the revisions to the stormwater ordinance. I'm not planning a presentation again, but just as a refresher, the purpose for the revisions to the stormwater ordinance are to bring us into compliance with the DEP model ordinance that is required under our MS4 permit. And this walk through the ordinance was just doing those things that we felt as the minimum necessary to bring us into compliance with that ordinance. I do want to point out a couple things that we found after the board meeting that we incorporated into the ordinance that's been advertised. It's in the packet. The first was we found a few places where we had changed from township engineer to township stormwater engineer. We didn't catch them all in the version you saw last month, so we caught the rest of those, and so that's a little bit different. The second thing is the BMP manual that DEP has. We took out the specific citation to a specific version of that, and we just said most current version of the BMP manual. So as that changes, which we're expecting that can change any time now, our ordinance is still consistent with that. And then the last one was we just reworded section 404A just for some clarity. It was very specific to the Spring Creek watershed plan, and we made it more general to our ordinance, or specific to our ordinance, which also is consistent with the Spring Creek watershed plan. So those are the kind of the highlights. In the packet was the summary memo that we reviewed at last meeting, as well as the full ordinance for consideration for adoption by the board this evening.
All right, thanks very much. And this too is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing for comments on this item. Not seeing any, so I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
This is Matt. I move that the Board of Supervisors move to adopt the ordinance.
This is Marty, second.
Thank you. All right, any questions or comments from the board on this? Not seeing any.
Sorry, I did have one comment. There was one of the kind of administrative things was changing from township engineer to township stormwater engineer.
Yes.
That could be anybody, right? I mean, it could be you or
We actually have a specific township stormwater engineer. So Adam Willis is our township stormwater engineer, but we also have, and we appoint annually, NTM Engineering we've been appointing as a township stormwater engineer as well. They
So they're kind of a
perform most
backup.
of the reviews for us, but Adam is also capable of performing those reviews.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
All right, good question. Any other questions or comments? I'm not seeing any, and this is a roll call vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a roll call vote for ordinance 1102. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Strickland?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Thanks so much. All right, we'll move to board discussion and public comment on the stormwater utility fee, and we'll go to the manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the August 20th Board of Supervisors regular meeting, the board approved a schedule for discussion of the stormwater utility fee ordinance, and provided with the agenda outlines that process. I'll also share with you that staff created an online webpage for written comments to be submitted and reviewed by the board for the individual residents that were unavailable to attend in-person meetings. And so we provided an avenue to which those comments could be captured and are included as part of the agenda packet. And I will suggest that the board give some consideration to public comment this evening, as well as have some deliberation prior to the next meeting that will be held, which is the special meeting held next week, where staff will present to the board what the process looks like and what the administrative resources required to administer the ordinance.
All right, thank you. So we'll go ahead and take public comment and then come back to some board comment after that, is my thought. Okay, and so first I'll just acknowledge that we did get a number of online responses, which were all included in the agenda. I'm sure everyone had a chance to review all of those. So what I'd ask is for the next, two agendas, for the next agenda for our meeting on Wednesday, that anything new be included in that agenda so that we can make sure that we see all of those. And then for that meeting on the 17th, if we could have just a compilation of those first two collections and then anything that's come in after that, so that we have a complete documented record of all the online comments. That'd be the 17th, September 17th, where we'll do some deliberation. So if that sounds okay with everybody. And then I thought next week at the work session, perhaps we could talk a little bit about how we want to review together all those online comments. If, we want to survey them to see if there's, some percentages we can look at, some, repeated comments, some, things that stood out to us. Just giving everybody some notice that maybe we can spend a little bit of time on Wednesday talking about how to move through that, because I anticipate there will be a significant number of written comments that we'll want to consider and discuss. So, okay, so we will do that. So we'll do that next time. So let's move ahead with public comment, and we'll start in the room. And if you'd like to offer some public comment as we go into this discussion on the stormwater utility fee, understanding too that next week at the Wednesday meeting we'll have some presentations on some data, some completed works and so forth. So if you have additional comments following this evening after those presentations, those are certainly welcome as well. So you don't have to wait until we've received those.
How much, ma'am, Madam Chair, how much time do you have allotted for this activity?
We have 40 minutes on here, so,
Okay.
if there is additional, we can certainly.
Did you have like an amount of time per person?
We try to keep it at about 5 minutes,
Okay.
but I anticipate we'll be pretty flexible with that. I think 5 minutes is generally pretty good, but, I'm not thinking I'm going to have to cut anybody off at 5:01. So,
Okay.
yeah, so no, there's no hard cutoff, but
And with the
generally.
comment period here, there's an opportunity for a little bit of like, hey, Mr. Engineer, just a question for you. There's some time for that, right? In that 5 minutes?
We'll go through the 5 minutes of public comment. If there are some, and then we'll come back to the board for some thoughts. If we've got some specific questions for staff, we'll probably run them by the manager or, staff that's present to see if that's something they could answer on the spot. I don't want to put anybody completely on the spot to answer some specific questions, say about somebody's unique stormwater bill and so forth. So that might get a little bit difficult, but most of what we'd like to hear at this point is comments on the fee. And so if there's some questions, I'd really encourage those to be submitted either via the form or in email or even tonight so that we can fully address that when able. I hate to, overpromise on something when I know we're going to get some good presentations and so forth next week. So that might answer a lot of that. So but for this period of time, I think it'd be really helpful for the board before we enter some discussion and deliberation to allow the public to come on up and have
Sure.
an opportunity
Yeah,
to comment.
I won't take up
So-
any more time. Let's let it play out. But I think if we've got some time for some back and forth, perhaps we can allow that. Maybe I'll reserve that to bring it back up again. How about that?
Yeah,
How's that
yeah,
sound?
we'll see, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. we'll see what the comments
See how it
are. So,
goes.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So we're not too incredibly rigid, but we'll try to accommodate everybody too, to allow everybody time to speak. So all that said, if we want to, whoever would like to come up to the podium.
And this is ongoing. It's not like this is our one and done night, so.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So, and as I said, if there are questions, I'm here, I'll document everything. We can certainly come back and answer them. All these meetings are being recorded on CNET, so we can provide any answers. And it's one of the nice things about doing them at these board meetings, so everything's on CNET. So, whoever would like to start, we'll start in the room here first. I'd invite you to come on up to the podium and provide your name and your township of residence.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Good evening, board members. Mark Kunkel, Ferguson Township. First, thank you for creating the opportunity for property owners to provide you input on the stormwater utility fee ordinance. It's no secret, though, that I've been opposed to adoption of the stormwater utility fee ordinance from its beginning. So you may ask, why? Well, Ferguson Township is not unique in Center County as a municipality required to obtain an MS4 NPDES permit from the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Resources. Ferguson Township is not unique that it maintains a stormwater conveyance system. Ferguson Township is not unique that it has a deteriorating stormwater conveyance system. Ferguson Township is unique in Center County that it has implemented a stormwater utility fee to be paid by all property owners in the township. The township is also unique in Center County that it has dedicated staff to manage the stormwater utility fee. And Ferguson Township is unique in Center County that it administers a fee collection billing system. Affordable housing is a national, state, and local problem. Ask yourselves, why has the township further exacerbated this affordability problem by adding more financial burden to property owners? Whether you own or rent, this fee has been added to the local tax burden and rental costs for property owners and renters. Finally, please be open to evaluating A, what is the cost of mandated pollution reduction plan projects to meet the minimum required MS4 NPDES permits? B, prioritize public works projects to coordinate road and street improvements with stormwater system replacements. C, develop a program of replacement and maintenance within current budgeted tax revenues. I'd ask you to think critically and budget conservatively. And my last question, I guess, maybe you could answer this evening. Will the September 11th work session be broadcast or recorded by CNET?
It will.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Tom Songer. Since our last meeting, I reviewed the strategic management plan that was presented. And I noticed in that plan, the amount of revenue that's to be collected by the stormwater fee is estimated to be $1,300,000, and that's consistent for, I believe, 5 years. I also noted that the administrative expenses to collect that fee are on the order of $300,000. So that's 23% of the revenue to be collected is going to spend in administering the fee. And that includes staff time to send out bills, prepare bills, and to meet with people who question the fee and evaluate, I guess, credit applications that some people think they deserve. Going way back, as I had mentioned the last time I spoke to the board, I, along with many other good people, did volunteer to serve on the Ferguson Township Stormwater Advisory Committee. We met for more than 2 years. The members of that advisory committee were never asked to vote on the proposed stormwater fee. We all thought that someday we might get that opportunity, but that never came to pass. And the staff basically took their recommendation to the Board of Supervisors at that time, and the board approved the stormwater fee, even though many people opposed the fee when the public hearing was held. As far as I know, only 2 people were in favor of the stormwater fee at that time, and those 2 people, I am told, did not even own property in the township. A 1 meal tax increase would generate approximately $519,000 in revenue. Again, according to the strategic management plan, it's expected that the average amount of expenditures for stormwater-related projects going forward, beginning in 2026, is estimated to cost $657,000. And that's after the Park Hills project has been completed. So if a real estate tax increase is implemented to cover future stormwater capital projects, there would not need to be $200,000 transferred from the general fund, which you have to do now, to meet your financial obligations for stormwater projects going forward. If the stormwater fee is discontinued, then, as I previously mentioned, approximately $300,000 in expenses relating to personnel and administrating savings would be realized. Doing a real estate tax increase is uniform and fair to everyone and is very easy to implement. The township should, in addition, as was really part of your strategic management plan, look at all your expenses and look at ways to save money. Consider contracting out some work, as other municipalities do. I manage 10 office buildings, more than 300,000 square feet of space. We have 50 commercial tenants, and I, along with my longtime office manager, Cindy Woodring, we negotiate all the leases and manage all our projects. I don't employ directly any maintenance staff. I use local contractors who have skilled people who are electricians, plumbers, HVAC people. I hire out snow plowing, lawn maintenance, everything. I'm 3 deep in every need that I have. These are men and women that I use. They employ really good, skilled people. I've looked at employing people of my own. I'd probably need 5 to 10 maintenance people. I'd have to buy trucks, lawnmowers, equipment, and I'd have to manage all those people directly. And I found that by contracting out, I can save a lot of time, effort, and money and provide good jobs for local people. On page 58 of the strategic management plan, it says, when preparing its annual budget, the township should consider capital projects and how these efforts will be funded and their impact on the activity of other funds. The stormwater fee is really seen by most people as a nuisance tax. It affects residential and non-residential property owners as well as future property owners. No other municipality in the center region or in Center County, for that matter, has implemented a stormwater fee. This type of fee discourages development and redevelopment of properties within the township. Ferguson Township, in my opinion, would gain a lot of goodwill if the stormwater fee was done away with. How much credit is given back each year to people who apply for it. That wasn't stated that I could find anywhere in the strategic management plan. The amount of credit is subjective and it's not uniform. And who decides, who makes that call, how much someone gets in terms of a credit? That's an important issue. Staff costs to administer the fee, along with equipment, computers, office space, it's a big number, as I previously stated. Ferguson Township's real estate tax is 2.422 mils. College Township's real estate tax is 6.1 mils. Harris Township's tax is 6.7. Patton Township's is 9.9. State College Borough is 19.88 mils. I think that most property owners would have no problem with a 1 to 1.5 mil real estate tax increase if they were assured that this money would be utilized to replace the stormwater fee. Looking at future capital projects, most storm sewer projects you're going to have to do involve existing streets. So if the township has a 10-year plan, let's say, as to what projects are going to be done, replacing stormwater pipes, inlets, whatever, that's all part of the total project, including the paving, curbing, and so forth. And you have to look at that comprehensively. And I think that, that can be done. That's certainly what other municipalities do. Perhaps no tax increase is necessary if the township can reduce expenses. So why not create a citizen advisory committee on finance who would work with the staff to look at ways to reduce expenses? An advisory committee should need more than 5 to 7 people. Members of the committee should include people with certain skill sets in public works, and in my opinion, should include at least 2 civil engineers, 2 contractors, and an accountant. I've seen this work before in other areas, and I know Ferguson Township has a lot of good people who would willingly serve on such a committee. So going forward, I think one of the questions I would ask of the supervisors is basically, tell me and other property owners, what is the compelling reason why the stormwater fee ordinance should not be rescinded and replaced with, if necessary, a real estate tax increase? And only the real estate tax increase will be necessary if it's determined that expenses can't be covered, can't be done away with in order to, or expenses can be cut in order to necessitate maybe perhaps the need to not even have a real estate tax increase. So does anybody have any questions relative to my comments? Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, other public comment?
My name is Bill Keogh. I'm a resident of Ferguson Township. Before I jump into this, I just want to tell the board that staff did an excellent job with regard to the ag security area development for the township. It was a short item earlier on the agenda, and I was sitting way over there, and I wasn't going to get up just to tell the staff that they did a wonderful job, but they did. It was a comprehensive job. It was better. We were a little late in our 7-year evaluation, but in so doing, I feel we had a very comprehensive result. So thank you to staff for that on the ag side of my world. It's been a long time since I dove into the township budget at a depth necessary to offer workable alternative solutions to the stormwater infrastructure issue and the MS4 unfunded mandate challenge. In addition to the fact that it's been a long time since I did that dive, the economics of Ferguson Township are not my strongest suit. And so my dive at this time is only a cursory one, but I did look at some issues. A few years ago, the township was facing two important stormwater issues. Number one, the unfunded federal mandated MS4 permit requirements related to pollution control and pollution mitigation. The second thing was an aging stormwater infrastructure in our township, as that infrastructure had passed, in many cases, its working life expectancy. And those were two challenges that we had in front of us a few years ago. And without repeating a lot of history, the township supervisors and township staff selected a consultant at considerable expense with the intent to create a new funding source for addressing the challenge of raising funds to assist with funding our MS4 and stormwater infrastructure issues that we faced at that time. Hence, the stormwater fee was born. When I confronted, during the birthing process of this fee, the consultant said that they were not charged, they told me they were not charged with looking at alternatives to the fee, but rather to move an ordinance forward that created the structure of the fee to be paid by township residents. Their company resume touted the fact that they had a model and the experience to present such an ordinance for passage to Ferguson Township. That was in direct communication with the consultant at the time. So here we are. We've had the ordinance for about 3 years and an opportunity now to relook at the effects that it's had, the impacts that it's had, the results that the ordinance and the fee have had, and alternatives to the fee that need to be considered and weren't considered the first time around. Many years ago, long before this issue came to pass, the supervisors and staff created an internal fee called the TIF, Transportation Improvement Fund. And the fund was developed to identify and use existing township funds for transportation-related projects in the township. The TIF garnered its funds from a township-created formula using township income as its source. The TIF, the money in the TIF, came from the real estate tax in Ferguson Township. It came from the real estate transfer tax in Ferguson Township, and it came from the earned income tax in Ferguson Township. And staff and the board at that time created a formula. Now, this is all internal. This isn't somebody telling us what to do. This isn't the state coming forward and saying we have to do it this way. We created this environment financially to deal with transportation improvement projects. And we developed a formula so that a portion of the real estate tax and a portion of the estate transfer tax and a portion of the earned income tax was devoted to and transferred to the TIF. In addition, monies in any given year, if additional monies were needed in any given year, over and above the TIF fund, the additional money typically came from either a change in the formula for which we were already collecting those taxes, or from a direct transfer from the general fund. But again, it was all internal, no external additional taxes to anybody other than what was being charged. I suggest that the following be considered as we move forward. Number one, I think we need to relook at the work plan that was put forward when the stormwater fee ordinance was in its infancy and passed. I think that work plan, it has proved to be very aggressive. And in fact, we have seen costs related to the work plan go astronomically high, well beyond anything that was projected at the time. And so I think, number one, we need to go back to that work plan, and we need to identify a realistic time frame and a realistic cost projections to move forward, something that we can afford. Although I didn't put it in my notes, I refer everybody, we were very open during the stormwater fee discussion prior to approval. And you could go on the internet, on the township site, and there were all kinds of charts there. And one of the charts projected over a 10-year period what the fee would have to be in order to accomplish the tasks that were outlined in the work plan. That chart got taken down. All of a sudden, it wasn't there anymore. I'm going to offer my interpretation of that. When one looked at the fee increase over a 10-year period in order to aggressively deal with the MS4 and stormwater stuff, that fee increased by supervisor action every year and was significant in the latter years, in the year 6, year 7, and year 8. A second suggestion is that we place funding for 100% all of our MS4 projects within the TIF. Those are required, and we need to address them. We're not looking at an option to address them. We need to. It's part of our mandate from the federal government. So I think that we need to prioritize those particular expenses and put them squarely in the TIF category. Some years, based on the formula that I talked about a little earlier, maybe our TIF had a little extra money and we could cover our MS4 requirements and have a little left over that we could use in our transportation improvement fund in some other category. Maybe to help us with the stormwater issue. I think we absolutely need to couple, and I think we do some of this, but we need to couple our stormwater infrastructure projects with our road improvement projects. And maybe we need to look at aligning, all right, where are our road project priorities? Where are our stormwater management priorities? Which line up so that we can do the job of improving our transportation infrastructure all in one package, as opposed to just doing some here and some there. I believe that we should rescind the stormwater ordinance, the fee ordinance. I think we need, as a staff and as a board, to stop adding new staff to this township. I think you've recently gotten an opinion from an evaluation that said we've got some issues there. I don't think, and Tom and I don't necessarily, we didn't sit down and compare notes coming to you. I don't think we should swap a millage increase to cover stormwater. Get rid of the stormwater fee, do a millage increase. I don't think just a flat out swap, which probably is the easiest thing we could do, is necessarily the best thing we could do with the money that we currently have, rather than creating more money by going to the taxpayer. As an aside, a couple of things. We know that a similar ordinance in another jurisdiction in the state of Pennsylvania has been in a court and has had a judgment. And that judgment by the judge was that the fee that was being touted in that particular case, similar to our fee, was in fact not a fee at all, but a tax. And in being a tax, did not follow the procedures necessary to implement that tax. I may not live long enough for the appellate court to decide to take this case up. The next level of court does not have a timeline as to when they have to take it up to get a higher court ruling in an appeal. So out there it sits. I don't know whether you as a township staff and supervisors have gotten this, but I would suggest as an action that you ask your solicitor to provide you with a written opinion regarding the ordinance and its legality and its defensibility as a fee versus a tax. Just something to think about in terms of our own group. I am disappointed that you're going to be having staff available and presenting something on Wednesday for your meeting. I cannot attend that meeting. It's a terrible time of the day for farmers. It's not a good time of the day for working people. I would have preferred that it be in an evening so that more people had the opportunity to have that input in terms of developing their own opinion. But it is what it is if that's what you intend. I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity and you taking the opportunity to discuss this at this time and to reconsider the viability of such an ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, other public comment? I'd invite you up to the podium, and please just give us your name and township of residence.
My name's Roy Campbell, and I farm out of Fairbrook. I was wondering if the engineers had a plan for the stormwater, that my field was flooded for weeks. And in order to alleviate the water, I have to wait till it goes down. And then you have to wait till the ground dries up. I just wondered if the stormwater fee would take care of that, or am I thinking not a smart gesture for the engineers to figure out what to do with the stormwater?
Yeah, I think, so are you asking if
Yes.
any of this will affect stormwater on farmland?
There should be
Yes.
a plan to fix something along where his farm is.
On the farm, or,
One of the fields, yes.
right, no, this would not be related to that.
The way the water's going to the field? Like, is there a road, public road, that's like dumping water onto his field? And would we have some sort of mitigation for not dumping as much water on the field?
So what I'll say, if
Is that
there's a specific question about your property, what I'd invite you to do is to contact staff following the meeting to ask about that specific property. I think that might be much easier for you to get a good answer.
Okay.
Could there be a generic answer to something like that, though? Like
That would be the
generically-
generic answer, would be on the farm itself, it wouldn't, right. Yeah, so, thank you, I appreciate that. All right, other public comment?
Dan Harner, Ferguson Township. We're right across the street here, and we get a huge amount of runoff from the highway, from Route 45, West College Avenue. Is there any way that PennDOT is playing a role in this, or in some way responsible for helping the township and some of the landowners? We can't be the only people that are having a problem because of runoff from the highways. And I think when we talk about runoff in some of the urban areas, I'm sure that has to do with the road construction also. But in the case of PennDOT specifically, is there any follow-up action or any action that can be taken to get them to help participate a little bit in this program?
I think it's a great question that I've noted, so, that's something that we could continue talking about, PennDOT's stormwater planning and how they get involved in mitigating, especially issues on private properties.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other public comment? You just make your way up to the podium. Not seeing any others in the room. I'll look online. Not seeing any online. Give it another minute if anybody else has public comment. And again, there will be other opportunities for public comment. We did kind of vary what times of day the meetings would be held to allow people with different schedules to be present, and they'll all be recorded on CNET. You can certainly submit questions ahead of time or in the comment form. So I'm not seeing any other public comment, and just to reiterate, we will still be taking public comment following this meeting. So we can go to some board comment, and once again, like I said in the beginning, we know that next week we'll be getting presentations with a lot more detailed information, including on that adopted level of service, the program plan, and the administrative costs and so forth. So we'll maybe keep this general at a higher level without going into specific questions on that, just because we know that all that information is coming next week. and we're giving staff time to prepare all of that for us, so we could start.
Madam Chair,
yeah,
quick question for you.
certainly.
Like, in what you just said there, I'm very curious. There's been a lot of really good information that's come out over the last 3 or 4 meetings from a presentation perspective. How much more is coming? I mean, are you aware of like how much more is coming, or there's
Right,
just...
so if you look at what we have set up for next Wednesday's meeting, so there we'll be reviewing the required resources to administer the fee, the infrastructure review of, or the review of what infrastructure development has been accomplished, and those associated costs and how that relates to the program plan and the level of service that was adopted with the timeline. So those specifics are what we'll get into next
So it's
week.
deeper than what we've seen in the past?
Mhm,
Okay,
yeah,
all right,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
All right, no, like, yeah, I read the same words. It just seemed like, oh, we're gonna look at the same stuff we've already seen, but you're saying it's like a layer deeper of like
Yeah.
person 1, person 2, person 3, project 1, project 2 has 3, and, you know, a little bit more than that. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, are we looking for the high-level comments then at this point?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
start wherever, whoever wants to.
I mean, I'll be happy to dive in. I'm talking right
Certainly,
now.
Take the mic.
So, sure, I think it's no surprise I'm not a fan of the fee. I'll say that right now as Matt Heller, individual board member. I think tonight we heard a lot of good potential solutions to moving forward with different opportunities. I think in our deliberation, what I'd like to see also is a time frame to revisit whatever we decide in the upcoming weeks or months to say, is it working? Here we are on a 3-year plan. We've had enough, or a 3-year, time frame so far to say, okay, things aren't working from my perspective. So what can we do differently? So I want to open the door for our future conversations around timing to revisit, just like we did with ASA. Maybe it's 7 years. I'd like to see it a little sooner than that. So that's really the first thing. I know this is a burden for a lot of residents, the extra fee. I think not having a fee, and even taking a harder stance and saying not replacing it with any other sort of funding, is a tough decision, especially after last presentation around the STAMP program, where we saw that the capital improvement, even after we made substantial cuts, we know there's a cliff. We know there's issues, concerns, where we're going to have some very thoughtful conversations over the next couple years to mitigate some of the concerns. I think this is a greater challenge, because knowing that we have to make changes over the next couple years, not having a replacement forces, again, difficult conversations. What do we do? What programs or other things need to be adjusted to compensate for potentially the lack of funding? It's not an easy conversation. There is no easy solution. So I just want to say truly that I appreciate folks coming out, having a conversation, offering ideas, different out-of-the-box thinking. That is what will help us make a decision and do what's best for Ferguson. So I want to encourage folks over these next couple of meetings to continue to do that. I'm sure I'll have additional comments after the other supervisors weigh in, but those are my initial high-level thoughts.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, and I would concur with Matt, given what we've learned from the STAMP program, but I think we're going to be at a bit of an inflection point of some tough discussions. And from what I've learned from residents over the years, there's a lot of services that we offer that are very highly valued, and I don't think it can be a very difficult conversation to talk about cutting certain services or scaling back certain services. So really that leaves us with that tough discussion of finding other funding mechanisms or increasing funding mechanisms, but also want to be cognizant of the affordability of those on our residents, understanding we do have varying levels of income earners in the township. So what may seem like a small increase in one place could be a significant impact on someone else's budget. So And I may have additional comments depending on how this conversation goes, so.
Patty, did you want to offer any comment right now?
Thank you. No, other than just to acknowledge what everyone has said thus far and understanding that it's an incredibly complex issue and some of these discussions, in particular to what Matt was saying, out of the box thinking, these things all occurred in the past as well, and there was no brilliant solution, right? So this is what we came up with. And so I think everybody understands the need is there. Now it's just about how we come up with it, and I appreciate all the input and look forward to hearing more.
Absolutely, thank you. Yeah, I'll echo the comments I've heard around the table so far, and yeah, I think it's good timing for this kind of review, and like we've been mentioning, it's obvious, some priorities have changed over last CIP and budget discussions, but also the conditions that were in place when this was adopted have changed, and so I think the timing for this review is really good. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to next week's presentations. And just a general thank you to everybody who came and offered comment tonight, including personal experiences with the fee, but also the ideas of how to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish here in different ways, and the understanding that there are some unfunded mandates that have to be met. So go back around if there's anything else. Again, these are just kind of initial comments prior to really getting into deliberation following the presentations. Yeah.
Say a couple things. I'll say I've been consistent with anybody and everyone I've spoken with on this topic that I'm going to keep an open mind. So that's in play here because there's been some really good comments at the podium, some fantastic comments on that came through online with some folks saying, I think you should dump this, but if you didn't, here's some ideas. I think you should keep it, but if you dumped it, here's some ideas. It's been pretty good to kind of see all that in writing and kind of think through that. But I want to reflect on perhaps what I hear in general when I listen to the words and I read the words. There are some people from a past perspective that are frustrated to no end with the way that this fee, and I'll use Mr. Keogh's quote, was born, end quote. There's some serious frustration there, and I acknowledge that from what I've heard, could things have been done in perhaps a different way? Absolutely. I have the benefit of not having that baggage. So that's kind of my lens is not jaded in that process or frustrated with that process because, I tuned into a meeting, but okay. I also had the privilege of when I was told it's $119 to say, all right, I'm working. Is this for the good of the township? Fine. So that's my other lens. But again, I've been able to read some other folks that have said, look, this is a problem for me. My taxes went up 50%. All right, okay, this is a thing we need to think through. But we also have to recognize that it's a lens that everybody's got to look through, that there is this, as Mark mentioned earlier, when he broke the ice, we have an unfunded mandate. There's an unfunded mandate for MS4, and several people noted that why did Ferguson choose this fee to fix it in that way? We're going to have to answer that question out loud now. And I don't want to surmise or I think I know the answer, but we're going to have to answer that question out loud. Why did we do that? Ma'am, to you, if you know that. Anybody that actually knows why we did it? I have some ideas, because I think Bill pointed out, our millage rate didn't go anywhere. And Tom's like, well, we increased the millage, we would have done this much easier. Maybe some people didn't want to touch taxes, existing taxes. Maybe it was we need those those properties that may be contributing to the stormwater that aren't paying any taxes to contribute to the stormwater. Whatever the case, we've got to answer that question out loud 100% so that everybody's on the same page. I will also acknowledge that from a past perspective, there was, what I would say, we bit off, the township has bit off a lot from the start of the implementation of this effort, of this stormwater cleanup effort, such that there could have been much less done associated with MS4 only. But there were some other projects that rose to the top at the time. I do have the benefit of being jaded by that, because I see the impacts of it. And that is that we haven't been able to do the work associated with MS4 yet. So that, I'm a little, that's a little interesting in the funding that we spend on that. So I'll now take it to the present, where there's been some really good alternates presented. Thank you to everybody that's presented that. On the flip side, there are several comments, a lot of folks that don't understand how this fee came about, how it's being implemented, and how it impacts them. I'll say that, and I'll look to maybe in the next meeting talking about a little bit what are, like, no nonsense, 100%, what are the fees to the ag community? I think there are a lot of comments, you're killing the ag community, or, well, I paraphrased there, but there's some, hey, this is unnecessary burden on ag community. So what is that, no kidding, let's hit that and make sure folks get a little bit, 100% recognition of how that fee is implemented on that community today. I also see it on the reverse side where it's saying, hey, this is stunting growth and economic development, and businesses won't come here. I guess I've seen some of the numbers, and I don't know. I'd like to understand too, truly, if there's 10 tenants in a building, and that building pays $1,000, $2,000 in fees. We divide a number by 10 and then again by 12. Did that $20 extra in rent truly impact that business? Or is it just the kind of, I don't want to raise rents on businesses that are on the brink of still being here, and so this is a tough, like that's important. That is important to know. And then the future. I think there's the what do we do with whatever decision is made. How are we going to make sure that everybody's clear on that the decision is in the best interest of the township and all of the residents? I think there's, in some of the comments, they're going, hey, you're taxing me and I'm seeing no benefit. So I would really like us all to have that kind of recognition that this is for the benefit of us all, whatever decision is finally made, and that we can kind of all collectively digest it, share it, and know that it's the kind of the right thing. So again, I maintain an open mind. I don't have a for, I don't have a tear it down, I don't have a keep it. I don't have a, I want to do what's best and most efficient going forward. We've got some data from the past that we can now use to inform our future. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks. And I'll just say too, again, so next Wednesday, we will be looking at accomplished infrastructure projects and MS4 projects in the pipeline too. So we'll be able to see all that. And perhaps we should add in there a review of the fee structure. So that might be helpful, yeah.
If I could make an addition, not just a review of the fee structure, but also maybe that future projection of the projects that are gonna be coming off, large capital projects, et cetera, where fees, where things might change, that inflection point, as Mr. Thompson put forth, that idea of when might we break even, what's going on, et cetera, to have a deeper conversation would be valuable.
Okay, any other comments? You can go.
I was just gonna say, I've always approached this with with an open mind, but also trying to be pragmatic, because absent of MS4 requirements or funding, rain is gonna happen. The weather, is always gonna be there, so making sure that we are prepared to have the infrastructure that can handle that. But also, I was gonna say, we have great staff, and I wanna make sure that they have the proper funding and resources so that they can make sure that the infrastructure and everything that we utilize when we go to work or go to the store is, we're able to get to and from without disruption. So it's just how to balance all that.
Thank you. And Patty, anything else?
No, thank you.
And the background, anything else? Staff, anything? If there is nothing else, additional public comment? Yes.
Well, let's go off up there. Quick question while Bill's walking. How do we select projects? I forgot, because Bill Roy Campbell just asked me about, hey, I got this thing over here.
For MS4?
Yeah, do we
or?
have that is somebody gonna speak to that next week?
Yeah, that would be in the review of the program plan level of service and the timeline review.
For capital projects or MS4 projects? They're two different items. The MS4 project that we have currently, Beaver Branch and Duck Pond, we're receiving, we're investing in those projects to receive credits versus capital projects like the Park Hills Drainage Way Improvement Project. So we can incorporate that type of information into our presentation for next week. Dave might want to provide a high-level overview this evening. I'll yield to the chair to see what she would prefer.
Yeah, if you want to, or you could wait till next week, whatever's.
Well, not what's in the pipeline, just how, it's not what's in the pipeline, it's how
the
we're
methodology.
the
Yeah.
approach to selecting another project. A gentleman just spoke earlier about, hey, what about my thing, it's dumping a bunch of water.
He was
Is there anything?
Yeah, that was private. He was referring to the private system.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a private road that's dumping water onto
the
us?
way I understood the two comments is we had one individual reference, the impact from stormwater runoff as a result, for example, of the highway. That's how I heard it. I may have misheard it, right? Like highway, and so that being, an item, how can we get assistance from DEP? Whereas PennDOT. Whereas the other comment that I heard was my property is flooded and can I have some assistance from like a financial assistance or engineering assistance? And I would say that is a private.
Copy. And I didn't hear it the same way. I actually heard that the water was going onto his property, and so it's like, well, if it's coming off that road onto his property, is there another means to move it, or that's what I heard.
We can incorporate some information in that presentation.
Those individual cases will be very difficult for us to get into at a meeting levels too, so that's why I encourage anyone that has a question about their individual property to contact us.
Totally get it, but I'm asking generically about
I'm addressing that
Okay.
point. To your question, I'm going to leave it up to Mr. Modricker if he wants to address how projects are selected at this point or next week, 'cause I know you're a lot
The
more
particular
information.
project that Mr. Campbell mentioned?
No, well,
I
just
can't-
generically.
Oh, generically?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so.
Are people bringing projects to you regularly saying, hey, Dave, this is a stormwater headache, what do you think?
Sure,
Okay.
yes, and to the extent that they are something that our maintenance section can handle, we'll put a work order in, we'll take care of them. If it's something that's not within our responsibility, we'll let them know that. And if it's a larger project that takes resources and funding, then it comes in front of you in the 5-year capital improvement plan. So, and you've seen some of those projects over time. You know, next year we've talked about, you know, Deerfield Drive issues, right? This year we took care of something on Kings Court. So, and then we have our larger projects like Park Hills Drainage Way. While that's a drainage improvement project, it moved through the CIP. It was separate from the MS4 PRP. And really the reason it was separate is because we couldn't obtain the credits because the portion of drainage area that it was in was parsed out because of the karst topography. So we just couldn't get those credits, right? Now, if we wouldn't have had that project plan and we would have been required to do projects, then we'd be saying, well, geez, boy, we got a lot more projects we have to do. But anyway, that's how Park Hills was handled. So the short answer is yes, folks come to the Township Public Works Department with stormwater drainage issues. We'll investigate them, figure out, is it a private issue? Is it PennDOT's issue? Is it our issue? Can we do it with maintenance? Do we need to program capital funds and put it through the CIP?
Thank you.
So,
Separately.
thank you for that answer, but that's what I was hoping someone would say while Mr. Campbell was in the room, right? To just say like, oh yeah, we do see these all the time. Somebody calls me, and I know you said reach out to staff, but I was like, just
It's-
that
Yeah,
clarity.
that particular question was a little difficult because I don't right now even know which parcel he was talking about. Sometimes farm water floods the roadways, right? Sometimes there's road runoff that's flooding private property, and sometimes there's a huge drainage area and a lot of Mother Nature and history involved to find the answer. But if he does contact me, I can drill down and get into the particulars of his
Yeah,
concern.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
All right, Mr. Keough.
Much appreciated.
yeah.
I'm old, I hope I remember what I was supposed to say.
Your name and Ferguson Township again for the minutes.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick things. One of the things that I hear is, I live on Route 45. I don't contribute any stormwater to any system connected to Ferguson Township. Why am I paying this fee? It's a state road, and none of the portion of the fee is going to the state to do any upgrades. Just a question. I have another property owner in the western end whose farm, or whose house on a separate lot from the farm contributes zero, and in fact is a quarter of a mile from the nearest township piece of infrastructure. And they're saying, why am I paying this fee? Just a couple of examples. I do think we need to talk about this state road thing, because I don't know how to answer that question other than the fact, the good of the order, okay? The other thing is, tonight's format and the format for the next 2 nights, 2 days, whatever, is a problem. Omari brought up some very good points that we had people in the room that could answer, could talk about. Jeremy brought up a couple of points that we had people in the room that we could talk about. And yet this format requires us to stand up here and do our thing, and then you to do your thing. And we never talk. We never answer each other's questions. And so, well, you all or whomever, staff, whatever, may think that this is the greatest way to do this publicly, and you're being very, very open in how you're dealing with it. It's not how we discuss things in real life and how we come up with solutions. This format does not lend itself to that, and I'm sorry that it doesn't, because I think you're absolutely right, both Jeremy and Omari. This is a big issue and is going to require some hard decisions that probably we haven't had a board in 20 or 25 years that has had to make some of these hard decisions, as many of them as we have in front of us right now. And so I think we've got to figure out a way to do it together as opposed to my side and your side, because that just isn't the best way to come up with some of these kinds of solutions that I think we're going to need to have in the long run. Thank you. I do remember what I had to say.
Thank you. Well, I would disagree that there's a your side and a my side. I think we're trying to make the best decision for the township. So I think tonight was about receiving the public comment, and again, I really appreciate everybody who took the time to speak and to submit their comments. All of the questions that were noted here can be addressed in time as staff is allowed to kind of process that question and provide an accurate response. So I think providing accurate information is really what is one of the top priorities here. So again, thanks everyone for all of your comments, and we do not need a motion this evening as we'll move forward to continued public comment and presentations next Wednesday. So unless there's anything else that staff needed to add, I think we've heard from the board. And did you have a comment?
I was going to say, in reference to Bill's comment about folks in the room that could answer, I think we're still in a period where we would be welcome and open to any follow-up comment following this meeting. You have our email. I think the form might still be open.
It
so
is
there,
still open.
there is various ways you can still interact and contact staff with any follow-up opinions or other feedback. So.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yep.
Thank you for reiterating that. Appreciate that. All right, we'll move to new business, and up first is the consent agenda with 4 items. Does anyone need to remove anything? And if not, I'll take a motion to approve.
This is Matt, so moved.
This is Patty, I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, say no. Okay, we'll move to discussion for consideration of an award for contract 2024-C23, the HVAC for computer room, and we'll go to Dave Modriker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a memorandum in the packet that indicates that we did open bids on August the 5th for contract 2024-C23, the admin building air handling replacement unit in the computer room. I note who was present, that we followed our bidding guidelines and received only 1 bid. Unfortunately, that 1 bid is over our budget. The single bid we received was from Allied Mechanical and Electrical, Inc. in the amount of $125,000. The budget for this work that you'll find in our operating budget is $84,000. Of that, some money was set aside for mechanical design, specifications, leaving a balance of $66,000 for construction. I have some notes regarding follow-up that was done, and then I do have 2 options for the board's consideration. I'll mention them both, and then I imagine you might want to have some discussion or make a motion. But first option could be the Board of Supervisors reject the bid on the basis it's significantly over the budget additional funds in 2025, and rebid the project in 2025. Alternatively, the board could award the contract to Allied Mechanical and Electrical in the amount of $125,000. And I can talk about temporary provisions that we have in place in the event of a failure. And at that, I think I should stop and see what questions the board has.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we can go to questions.
Again, just remember history on this one. This is the same HVAC unit and system that caused the leaks and the flooding and the late night calls where folks had to come on site and make some quick adjustments and concerns with the server. Is that correct?
Yeah, there
Okay.
was it's a condensate. No, there was a water line that ran above the ceiling to the unit, and that water line leaked. So yes, we had to repair it, and we rerouted that line so it wasn't on top of going over the server area. That was one of the issues that we've had, yes.
And if I recall correctly, this was actually for the CIP, not this last time we did it, but the year before that, I think, was when we had this discussion initially for the CIP concern. So this has been going on for at least 2 years, or I'm sorry, over a year, if not more.
The manager shaking her head, yes, I don't recall.
Yes, it was in the operating budget
Yeah.
for 2023 and then again in 2024. The township purchased this unit in 2006, so we are a couple of years beyond its life expectancy, which is the risk and which is why it's in front of you this evening.
Right. So, again, I just wanted to start the conversation there from a historical perspective. I've got some other thoughts, but I will yield for now.
Okay.
Just thinking through this evening, I imagine replacing the servers is not very cost efficient, especially if they don't need replaced. So it would be critical to make sure we have a working air conditioner that would keep them properly in the right environment for the long term. But I'm definitely open if there are any other suggestions that come along, so keeping an open mind on this.
Are we, I don't know, kicking this thing each morning for it to shut on, or like, is it working good enough, like for right now, and if something were to happen?
Since February,
Okay,
yeah, but we had some significant issues with it in February. So when it failed and it took some time to get a part replaced, we had temporary AC units in that space. And so currently, there's one temporary unit sitting in there on a programmable thermostat. So if temps go higher than its set point, it'll kick on. One of the difficulties is there's not a lot of space to vent it without opening a door. So it'll kick on, it'll work for a period of time, and then we'll bring a second portable unit in, open the doors, and then run a pipe to get it up into a plenum airspace out into the hallway in another room. So those are some of the temporary kind of backup issues that we've put in place.
yeah, my gut tells me double doesn't quite make sense here, the price, and so I guess I'm wondering if we get more bids if we put this back out on the market with maybe another newspaper, with a newspaper ad that's a couple $100 or something.
Yeah,
just to drum
it's
up.
possible.
Okay.
Certainly, we could be more diligent in following up with contractors prior to bidding, reach out to more contractors. Maybe the bidding environment is different. So sometimes it's hard to tell why you only received one bid. I did consult with Barton, they're our mechanical designer in this case, received their recommendation. They were instrumental in putting the estimates together as to what, the anticipated cost would be.
All right. And Patty, any comment or questions?
No, everyone sort of covered the same thoughts I have. It's surprising that it's so high and, is it something that can last a few more months and try it again? Was it just that maybe everyone was so busy leading up? I just don't know. So, I'm really on the fence either way about this one.
Dave, did you want to describe some of the temporary fixes you have, or?
Yes, so we have a portable unit in there now. and that unit has a programmable thermostat. So we have it set right where just below where the high temp alarm, before the high temp alarm would go off. So it would automatically kick on. We would then, upon us realizing that the temporary unit's on, install a second unit, open the doors, and run the exhaust line out so we could better cool that area. I did contact our security provider to get a quote to install a high temp alarm in that room. So there'd be an initial cost to run the line. They already have a dialer in the basement. And then, they would, if they got that signal, just like they would for any of the other points that they monitor, they would go down a call down list till a person got the call. One of the other systems that would be included with any new unit we put in is it would be tied into our building automation system, and it could, on a high temp alarm, send an alert. But in the short term, our security provider would be the resource to install the monitor, and
Okay.
yeah, so we would get a call on a high temp.
Okay. Matt?
No, I mean, we have a plan should the unit fail. I think only having one bid at $125,000, which is significantly over budget, as the narrative points out, would warrant revisiting this and seeing if we can get more folks around the table. I know COG, there was an issue with the fire station having some HVAC issues, but one of their members, lend a hand, and all of a sudden the prices, it was more of a community type effort in that example. So I'm wondering if we could solicit the community, the HVAC community again in the upcoming year and get a better price on this. If we saw two at $125,000, two bids at $125,000, I go, okay, well, I guess
Right.
that's the price. But only having one, I'd be for postponing this, and I hate to say using the temporary solutions until resolved.
Other comments?
You ready for a motion, Madam Chair?
Well, I just wanted to see if there was some other comments before, since we have some options for a motion.
While I can support a rebid, I do sometimes have concerns when things go out for rebid. You may not necessarily get the same provider. So, don't want to discourage anyone from bidding. But yeah, it sounds like there is a consensus for a better price if that is at all possible out there.
Yeah, so if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to reject the bid on basis significantly over budget and to rebid the project at the next appropriate time.
This is Matt, I'll second.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, say no. All right, okay, thanks, Dave, for your work on that.
Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to certification of the I'm sorry.
We didn't take any public comment on that.
You didn't,
Was there any
there was no
public?
public hearing.
Okay, all right.
Was there somebody that had their hand raised?
I think, well, he's gone now, but I think Tom raised his hand for a second, but
Oh,
we're past it.
okay.
Okay.
Oh, he was waving goodbye, I think.
Oh, same black.
Okay.
Sometimes sorry.
All right, so we'll move to certification of the 2025 minimum municipal obligation for the police pension fund and the non-uniform pension fund, and we'll go to Todd Grady, Finance Director.
Thank you, Chair. In accordance with Act 205 of 1984, provided with the agenda is a memorandum from the Township Manager dated today describing the anticipated MMO for police and non-uniform pension plans for 2005. Act 205 requires the minimum pension obligations for the upcoming year to be calculated and submitted to the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors prior to September 30th of each year to be adopted by resolution. The municipal cost estimated to be $404,263 for the police defined benefit pension plan and $308,451 for the non-uniform 401A defined contribution pension plan. The state aid value has not been provided at this time, and the net cost of the township, which is represented by the total municipal pension cost minus the state aid value multiplied by the number of participants in each plan cannot be presently determined. This item is for informational only, and no action is required by the board.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions?
My only comment is that we just want to probably update the narrative to reflect dated September 3rd, 2024. That was the only thing I saw there. If that was it. Happy to make a motion.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, this is Matt. I move that the Board of Supervisors receive the memorandum outlining the 2025 certification of the pension fund's minimum municipal obligations.
All right, do we have a second?
Mr. Thompson will second that.
All right, any other comment? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 And any opposed, say no. All right, well, thank you, Todd. Okay, any communications from the board that need to be shared?
I had just had a communication regarding personnel as well as CNET programming. I also did get another communication from the president of the Western Pennsylvanians for Passenger Rail. They were sharing with me with Megabus. It appears Megabus, the parent company, declared bankruptcy and they're no longer servicing the area. So Fullerton has added additional busing service that they said can better coordinate for passengers who may want to connect from State College to rail in Harrisburg to be able to do so as early as 9 o'clock versus 2 p.m. And they did provide some contacts from PennDOT as well as Amtrak that any necessary staff, should there be something municipal-wise we want to, communicate further on to do so. So,
right.
And then he did follow up on our on the municipal comments regarding the rail study from the COG program plan we just looked at.
All right, anything else anyone needed to?
I had multiple communications pertaining to the MS4, stormwater, as well as the inability to hear what was going on in our meetings. So, thank you.
All right, anything else? And
Nothing
if you-
additional.
Yeah, go ahead, Patty.
Oh, sorry. I had some communications, actually quite a few communications about the refuse and recycling in the bins, and also with regarding motorized scooters and that sort of thing. That's it.
All right, thank you. Okay, we have a number of calendar items. I just want to point out our September 11th, 12:15 p.m. Board of Supervisors special meeting where we'll continue discussing the stormwater fee. And then I wanted to point out that the Center County Refuse and Recycling Authority is going to have a trash collection open house here at the township on September 17th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. That's prior to our September 17th meeting. So if anyone needs to come and ask questions about the new contract or see the available bin sizes, you are welcome. It's a 2-hour period prior to the meeting. So hopefully anyone with questions can come to that. All right, if there is nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
This is Patty, so moved.
And I'll second, and we're adjourned. Thank you.